Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing to Profit. I hope you're doing okay. It's another sunny day in Suffolk as I talk to you now. I thought in order to get myself back in the habit of recording videos, because I'm going to do a few over the next few days, that I would just whiz through the four qualifiers against my Newcastle Sires angles. Yeah, to get me back in the habit really, and to talk through a few things that I just kind of noted down really, that may or may not be of interest. I will try and do a few more videos moving forwards, a few shorter, snappier ones, which is relative, obviously, relatively speaking, when it comes to me and videos, and uh, some other kind of longer, more in-depth ones when those are appropriate. So with that said, after this video, I'm going to record another one kind of introducing the new layout and talking through one of the other blog posts, and they're off my plan, so I'll do a video for that also. So yeah, I'm on the blog, I'm on today's post. As you know, well, if you've read some of the other posts, my aim very much is to focus on the qualifiers and the content within my blog and the 15 trainers I focused on with the Trainer Profiles 2020, the flat report, which hopefully you've got your hands on. As I flick down here, there's kind of 5 comments already. With that said, I will jump over to the superb Gigi's Gold as I tick around to 2 minutes and just flick through a couple of these. So I'm in the 1 p.m. At Newcastle, as you can see. I concluded, I mean, I don't play on the all-weather that much anyway, as you know. I concluded all of them really. It was hard to have much confidence and kind of weighed in at kind of big prices. Stonemason, who is yeah, he hits the sire angle, he's hot form, horses to follow also. He's kind of hasn't been missed really. As you can see, he's new from the Roger Charlton Yard for the horse watchers, which are the Dixon brothers and another one of their friends, I think. That last race is working out ever so well. He's apparently taken a bit of time to mature and come to himself and develop into a big frame. I'd like to think, I mean, when you look through that form of that race, I'd like to think a mark of 63 is very workable. And he could well be, in time, be an 80s horse, but I'd like to think he's got something in hand. He's unexposed. Whether he shows it today, obviously the sire's angle would suggest that he may well like the surface, but of course that's an unknown. Fitness is an unknown. Mick Appleby hasn't traditionally done that well here, as you can see from some of the stats here, but there's various other pointers here. He generally does well with trainer change and those horses new to the yard running first time for him. So, you know, he's an interesting one in this race given his unexposed profile, but without knowing the reports from the yard, you're kind of guessing a bit as to fitness, and you're guessing a bit as to whether he'll handle the surface. He drops back to 8 furlongs also. I assume that means they may be aggressive. I think they're probably on a bit of a fact-finding mission as well as to his best trip. It could be an aggressive 8 furlong, because he did show some promise last time when you watch it that suggests those kind of tactics in this trip may be worth trying, which they are. Or it could be in time he needs 10 furlongs and he's stepping up and he might get outpaced today and then stay on. He may well come on for the run. In any case, 6 to 4 was a bit short. I think he was only put in at 4s or 5s. He was never really missed. I'm not sure that at the time seemed massive either to my eyes, but we shall see. There'll be a few pointers, no doubt. Heavenly Tale is another one for the sire's angle. So again, some hope there that he will handle the surface. I say here it's a she. All I'll say with this one really, again, a bit too much guesswork on multiple fronts for a 9 to 2 shot. This is another trainer change horse. I thought I would just highlight Tristan Davison. You can see some of his stats there. You may wish to note down for the future possibly. A very good trainer to follow. He doesn't have a massive string, You can see his handicap record with all handicap was 28 from 118, 60. You know, the wins play strike rate's pretty good. Obviously, those numbers may come down a bit as he has more handicap runners, but you know, if you wanted a trainer to follow, I suppose, or to keep an eye on as a weigh-in or something, a smaller yard that may continue to go under the radar, then Mr. Davidson may be one. So that's that. I wasn't going to dive into anything there at the prices. Like I said in the notes above, I kind of hope Stonemason may need the run well for a while, and then maybe drop back, and that his time will come on the flat, on the turf in the future. Maybe this trip, maybe further, and we may get a bigger price one day. I'm sure these connections and this trainer will find the key and get him to win a few races for his new owners. I think they picked him up for 12 grand, so it'll be interesting to see if that works out as good value or not. What was I going to say? 355 was the next one. Again, I wasn't really going to dive into this, a 3-year-old handicap. I suppose I was just noting of interest that the owner, which is one of the big Arab owners, isn't it? Yeah, Mohammed Abeid Al Maktoum. Interesting, he's got some, well, a runner here. I'm not sure how many he's got with Kevin Ryan. He's obviously always had a few with Roger Varian. He's got some with Simon Crisford, generally well-bred sorts. So it'll be interesting to see what Kevin Ryan can do with him. But again, just too much guesswork. It's obviously a 3-year-old only handicap. Most of these are open to improvement. You're a brave punter and brave than I think, if you're wading in at some of these prices, given some of the profiles. But yeah, fitness, and this one's running on at Newcastle for the first time. Obviously unexposed. Some of his form has worked out fairly well. Some of those races have produced subsequent winners, etc. So that was that. But yeah, there wasn't really much enough there for me to go on at 5s to be overconfident. And you know, it might take a few days, it might not, a few weeks even, to see what trainers are going well, or kind of in 3 or 4 days there may be a handful of trainers that have just hit the ground running and timed their preparations to perfection. We shall see. But you would think generally at this time it may be wise to take bigger prices. Zoran was 14s or so, and then 11s, 12s. Like I said in the notes, I've kind of had beer money on a small little each way interest for me. Yeah, hits the sire angle. I thought he was interesting when you look through some of Palmer's stats, especially those with 60 days off. He can ready them. His overall record at Newcastle isn't too bad, not so much in the last year necessarily, but that's small sample sizes. I thought interesting enough. Of course, it's a maiden, and they're not exactly races I'd want to dive in and be overconfident in either. You're kind of using the market as a guide, and you could start to see that it was being backed. So hopefully that's some in the know money, or connected to the horse, and that they know he is fit. Whether or not he'll be good enough, you can see that race hasn't worked out too well yet that he ran in at Wolverhampton. I suppose one of the things I was going to show were the sectionals, which are new to GG's for the tracks that have such data. I forget the company, lost it off the top of my head. That Matt uses, but again, another great addition to this wonderful set of tools, and I'll be trying to work out how best to use this when reviewing races, I suppose, to work out who was inconvenienced. Here you've got a kind of the middle period of this race, from kind of 6 furlongs out to 3 furlongs at Newcastle. Wolverhampton was very, very well. It was a slow time on the sectionals compared to its kind of the historic average, or the par score. And then it kind of turned into a sprint. So slow, 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 and then fast finishing, 109.8%. With kind of on this par, kind of 103% or so was the par kind of finishing speed over 3 furlongs to the finish line in those race conditions. So that would suggest, yeah, they went slow in the middle part and then kind of sprinted near the end. And in that kind of scenario, maybe as I think aloud, and I need to get my head around sectionals and how useful they may or may not be, for me, that kind of would indicate that being held back or further back would have inconvenienced some horses, as it wasn't that fastly run. Which I think that suggests to my eyes. But I tick around the 10 minutes. I just thought I'd highlight that of some interest. And yeah, you can kind of use the market, I suppose, to guide in these kind of races at this time of year. What was I looking at? It was the 6:15, wasn't it? And you could see there Zora and one odds checker being nibbled at, the odd lines of blue. But then the two at the top, I mean, the three Newmarket yards kind of dominate the top here. The top two have been fairly solid. One for Varian, who's a Frankel colt. He does pretty well at the track on this surface, as does Varian with a few horses he sends up here. So a few interesting ones there. Yeah, it's not a race to go mad in, but I thought I'd use it to highlight a few different things. Hopefully, he might run a big race and pay for a few more rounds at the pub. Whenever they may open again. So with that said, I'm ticking around the 12 minutes, which is long enough for this particular video. Aim for under 10, hit 12, so solid start there. Anyway, yeah, I hope I've said something maybe of interest there. I could have flicked through various instant expert tabs and everything else within this to give you a better idea, I suppose. But yes, with that said, I will stop talking, produce this video, and hopefully you find it interesting enough to watch. Meanwhile, I will crack on with a few other videos in terms of introduction to the kind of, well, the plan moving forwards, and I will have a look at really Super's race on Tuesday, which might be Super Tuesday. We shall see, but more on that later. But for now, this is Josh saying thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll be back soon.